Hello, everybody. Welcome behind Enemy Line Sports with Brandon Matthews. Lots going on. We've already gone through the first week of the NFL season. There's a lot of MMA stuff going on. You had some drama this last weekend. So let's just start with some introductions. So follow me on Instagram at Behind Enemy Line Sports. You can also find me on YouTube at Behind Enemy Line Sports and on Twitter at BrandM2012. Lots been going on in my life, at least. Started college again, economics major. Well, not major, just going for, economics major. So splitting my time between this and that has been a little hectic, but it just has equated to late nights. So I'm pretty tired today, but we're here to record. I'm going to record this, and then we can do some homework. But that's just the way it goes. I've been doing it for a while now. But someday it'll be done. Hopefully soon. Updates on anything else? Still working on the studio here. I know it looks a mess a little bit. The background looks kind of janky a little. But I do have a little idea to make it look a little more sportsy. And actually, this junk right here needs to be moved. But I still got Seahawks in. I'm actually going to be putting up the jerseys I have from the various players that I like to watch, or that I've liked to watch over the years in the NFL. Going to just put up some of these guys and just hang them up, I guess. Ain't got a lot of money, so I can't frame them just yet. But someday I will. So, yeah, I think that's it for now. I'll just hop right into what's going on. So for those of you who may not have known, this last weekend, I believe it was on Saturday, we had Triller Fight Club, Vitor Belfort and Anderson Silva versus Vitor Belfort versus Evander Holyfield, Tito Ortiz versus Anderson Silva. Those are really the only fights I cared about on that card. I mean, everything else I didn't care about. I didn't care about Trump doing his thing, which actually I heard that he did seem knowledgeable in boxing, which I'm not super surprised. I mean, he has a long history with helping the UFC get its feet under itself. He's also had a lot of boxing events and stuff at his whatevers, his hotels and whatnot, or casinos. So, not super surprised. But, who cares? Vitor Belfort versus Evander Holyfield. This fight was super unnecessary. The opposite of Jorge Masvidal, super necessary. This was super unnecessary to have this fight. I don't know. I mean, it couldn't get sanctioned in California, understandably. Evander Holyfield's 58 years old, and I believe Vitor Belfort's like 13 or 14 years younger than him, or 11 or something. Anyways, but it was pretty sad to watch. I mean, Evander Holyfield, he didn't really do much. He just kind of, I don't know, maybe he was feeling out a little bit in the fight, at least at the beginning. I mean, the fight ended with 12 seconds left in the first round, so it really didn't last that long. And I just felt sad watching it, to be honest, because it's almost like watching a predator stalk its prey. The way that Vitor was, just kind of setting up Evander for, his big shots. And also, this was also an exhibition fight, and I'll get into that. But Evander Holyfield took this thing, Vitor Belfort took this thing like he was about to fight for the freaking title or something. Like he took it way seriously than it should have been for an exhibition match. And I think if the fight would have gone on, I'm 100% certain that Evander Holyfield would have been knocked out. So I'm really glad that the referee stopped it when he did. Because clearly Evander was good enough to keep going, but I think the ref had seen enough, and I had seen enough myself. I was like, get this crap out of here. Like, it's so stupid. But also, when we're talking about these fights, I guess you'd call them celebrity boxing matches or just entertainment fights. I mean, I understand the market for them. They're entertaining. Some of the matchups are actually kind of funny to watch and interesting, I guess. I mean, Jake Paul, I think, is a good example of that. But when we're talking about two well past their prime guys, especially Evander Holyfield, no disrespect to him. He's a legend in boxing. But he's an old man. at this point. He's 58 years old. He's almost 60. And we're talking about a 50-something-year-old, 40-something-year-old basically beating up an old man. Now, Florida sanctioned the fight when California wouldn't, which no surprise there. Florida kind of is whatever. But I don't want to say it sets these types of fights back, but I don't think anyone wants to see this type of a matchup again. You know, if Evander Holyfield was fighting someone like a Mike Tyson or someone, you know, closer to his age, you know, who is no longer fighting. I mean, I think Evander Holyfield's last fight was like 11 years ago. So, what are we doing? So, I mean, I hope he got paid. That's all I care about, I guess, in this situation. You know, it seems like he escaped with with minimal injury, so that's good. And hopefully he got paid a lot of money to do it. Going on to the Anderson Silva, Tito Ortiz fight. That fight was a bit more interesting. You know, Tito fighting at... he was, I think, set to lose in this fight going in, no matter what Tito Ortiz was. Because Anderson Silva basically forced Tito to fight at 195, which the history of Tito Ortiz, he's never fought at that weight. And I didn't know this until I heard someone else talking about it. But I guess apparently the heavyweight division in the UFC, I believe the upper limit was set because, well, maybe not the upper limit, but there was a weight limit set because Tito couldn't make the previous weight limit. So that just goes to show, should probably tell you that fighting at 195 was never going to happen for Tito Ortiz. And the reason why I think this set him up to lose is because the way the fight played out, Tito came out a little more aggressive than Anderson Silva. Silva was a little more strategic and plotting, which, you know, not plotting, but a little strategic, which, I mean, no shade on Anderson Silva. He's one of the greatest fighters of all time. But, you know, with that weight cut Tito went through, I think it was like a week out from the fight, he had put up a video saying that he weighed 215, he's the lowest he'd ever been, and he still had to cut down to 195. Now, it's become more relevant in recent years when it comes to weight cuts, I feel like, at least when it comes to public perception of how these things go. But it's pretty much well known that when a fighter cuts so much weight, it really compromises their ability to perform. It also makes it much easier for them to get knocked out. And that's exactly what it looked like here. So Tito came out a little quicker, a little more aggressive than Anderson Silva. And Anderson ended up getting to the corner and started rope-a-doping a little bit, but all he really needed was one punch, and that's all it took. He hit Tito with a hook, and Tito kind of got stunned, and then Anderson threw another punch, and then almost to the back of the head, it looked like, which I don't think that had any effect. It didn't look like it was super hard. But then he followed up with another left hook to the face, and that put Tito out cold. So I think Tito was set up to lose this fight from the beginning. I don't think that's because Anderson Silva had any ill intentions here to try and get him to lose in that way, but I mean, it is what it is. After the fact, Tito tried to give his opinion on everything, but he didn't exactly portray that message or articulate that message very well to the fans, because the way he sounded was, in all honesty, and I'm not saying, and you can have your opinions on Tito, you can say he's an idiot or whatever, but hearing his interview after the fight, after he's had time to relax, you realize this is a guy who, he just wants to do well. He has kids that he wants to inspire. He wants to be a good dad, and you know what? This is money for him. So at the end of the day, whether or not you hate him for his politics or the way he is, he's just a person trying to get through life and do the best that he can. So can't really fault him for that. But he definitely alluded to or suggested that the weight cut was a big reason why he wasn't able to perform very well. And he does know that the way he came out wasn't exactly the best strategy, especially against someone like Anderson Silva, who's such a good counterpuncher, that you just can't come at him like that. So, I mean, there's not much else to it. Just hope Tito got money for that. And as far as the rest of the Triller fights, I will say that this particular event looked a little better than the previous one. Visually, it didn't look so trashy, but there's still aspects of their organization and their events that you're like, this is kind of trashy. So, Triller is what they are, and I think that's not going to change anytime soon. On to the next thing. So, Conor McGregor and MGK got into a little spat at the VMAs. So initially, the video that you see it was so confusing for me initially because I was like, where the hell is Conor in the video? But then I see him throw his whiskey and I'm like, there he is. Well, that's not true. Actually, that video was pretty clear. There's another video, or at least maybe part of the same video, but a little bit later in the clip, but I couldn't see Conor. But anyways, Conor had, in the video I saw initially, was, forcibly restrained, and he had lunged at MGK, and there's even a picture of him swinging on MGK, which, I don't know, man. I don't know why. Like, are you going to assault the guy? That's definitely not good optics, especially for someone like Conor McGregor, who's had a bit of an issue with assaulting people in the past. But I will say, if Conor was pushed by MGK, Conor's kind of compromised. I mean, he's got a broken leg. He's still walking around with a cane, which I thought was interesting because in the clip I saw where he threw his whiskey, he dropped his cane, and he's over there bouncing around like nothing's wrong. And I'm like, I wonder how his leg's doing. I mean, it must be good enough for him to do that, or unless he was just biting down and saying F the pain. So initially, when I was looking into this, or at least as information was coming out, it was being reported that Conor had tried to get a picture with Machine Gun Kelly and ended up being denied and then shoved. And that seemed a bit weird to me, at least, when I was listening to that. I was like, why would MGK shove Conor? Because just like the other reports have shown, I've seen MGK UFC events and Conor McGregor events. So I wasn't too sure something seemed a little off. And there is a rumor going around that the thing that initiated this altercation was supposedly Conor McGregor being in Megan Fox's DMs. Now, MGK and Megan Fox are a thing right now. I honestly don't care, but since this is part of MMA news, that's the facts. If that's true, I mean, you can kind of understand where MGK is coming from, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't want to give Conor too much credit. I think he's kind of lost a lot of credibility in the past, several years with some of his actions. But if it is true, I can see where MGK is coming from, but I just have a hard time believing that being the case. I also wonder, what does his wife think of this? Because through all this hubbub, all this dust up, you see on social media at least, Conor and his wife, like nothing's wrong. They're just hanging out. They're going to the VMAs. They're vacationing or something, or hanging out with their kids in LA. And everything looks fine. So, I mean, maybe behind closed doors, things are a little more stressful for them. But at least for now, it seems like things are cool with them and they don't have any issues. I just hope Conor can, just cool off a little bit. Like, I think what's happening with Conor is, and I believe this was something that may have started last, in 2020 when he fought Cowboy. I think Conor is trying to get back into the MMA spotlight. I think the Cowboy fight was supposed to be the beginning of this, and he beat the hell out of Cowboy, but then COVID ruined that year for pretty much everybody. And I'm sure Conor's rollout was ruined as well. So I think now we're getting the MMA push that he was trying to generate in 2020. But I think plans have changed with his approach, because you could tell initially when he fought Dustin that he was taking this good guy approach, very chummy. But the second time around, not so much. And this seems to have carried on even, past that. So I think Conor's evil Conor again. And so I'm sure this won't slow down going into 2022. Because he's got to keep everyone's name, or keep his name in everyone's mouth so that when he does come back, it's as big as ever. We do have a few news bits that came about this last week. Ariel, Helwani, and Brendan Schaub were beefing. Brendan, I'm kind of like I don't want to say love, but I kind of like Brendan Schaub, but I also kind of dislike Brendan Schaub. Sometimes I'm like, he's insightful. I think he's actually, kind of intelligent when it comes to MMA stuff. But there's times when I hear it and I'm just like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? And this is one of those situations where I kind of lean to the side of like, what the hell are you talking about? Because on Brendan's show, what was it? I don't even remember what it's called right now. His MMA show. If I remember it, I'll bring it up. He talked about Ariel and how he is, he's heard rumors and people that not even rumors, that he's talked to people who've worked directly with Ariel saying that he's kind of a shitty person to work with and a pain in the ass. Whether or not that's true, why even talk about it? Like, Ariel and Brendan don't ever have any communication on social media. I've never seen them interview each other. Never seen them talk to each other, at least within the last several years. So I just wonder where this came from. This kind of was a little surprising, but now that Ariel's on his Ariel Helwani, so now he's playing the heel role, he's not letting this go. He's just going to keep going at it with Brendan. It's funny because when Ariel initially clapped back, you had Brendan who, behind closed, through text messages, reached out to Ariel. Ariel completely exposed that. Reached out to Ariel to apologize and stuff, but Ariel's like, nah, do it on your show. I haven't listened to Brendan's response on the show, but based on what I heard Ariel say on his show, following Brendan's whatever, sounds like Brendan didn't exactly apologize, or at least not completely. So this may be a beef that carries on for a little bit. We'll see. Nothing will come of it, I'm sure. So, Jake Paul wants to fight Jorge Masvidal. And Jorge, all he does is laugh. And I understand. I've got 2.5 minutes here before I have to restart this video. Well, not restart, but my camera won't let me record longer than 20 minutes at a time. So, I think this is kind of dumb. Well, maybe not. I think it's ridiculous for Jake to think that he's going to fight Jorge and win. I believe, I think Jake probably looks at the Jorge fight probably from the perspective of it's a big money fight. Like, Jorge's one of the UFC's biggest stars. Jake is essentially a star in his own right. So putting them together in a fight would definitely generate huge revenue. But besides that, Jorge's under contract with the UFC. Dana White's not going to allow that fight to happen. At least not right now. He may make an exception. I mean, he's done it for Conor, so it's possible. But Dana's already came out and said, Jake, what about Anderson Silva? He just beat Tito Ortiz. Why don't you fight him? He's not under contract. And I agree with Dana. But I don't think Jake wants to fight Anderson because I think he wants his first loss. Because the reality is, his first loss is going to affect his ability to make a lot of money. Now, would he rather that first loss be against someone like Anderson Silva, who I would say a lot of the younger MMA fans and even like his fan base don't really know? But Jorge, that's a different story. MMA fans know who Jorge Masvidal is, and that buzz alone would generate excitement for Jake's fans. So I can understand where this push is coming from Jake from a money perspective, because he wants to lose to someone that is going to equate to a larger payday. So I think he should fight Anderson Silva. I think that's a good step to the next person, but I definitely don't think he beats Anderson Silva. One second. And we're back. The last thing I have on my MMA news bits is Sean and Paddy. Actually, no, it's not. Yes, it is. Sean and Paddy going back and forth. This is interesting because I think Sean is in the right mindset that this is potentially a future super fight. And I'm pretty sure Paddy's probably in the same mindset. They're only 2 weight classes away from each other. And even though people keep bringing that up, Sean is a big bantamweight. He's not like a natural bantamweight. He cuts down to that weight class. Now, I know Paddy's had a hard time. Now, I don't know if he's had a hard time cutting down to 145. I remember listening to his interview, and he might have been fighting at bantamweight at one point and was really struggling to make that weight, and so now he fights at 155. But I definitely think they could meet somewhere in the middle. Or even Sean, he seemed like he's more of a natural, probably more of a natural middleweight. Or no, not middleweight. Damn, what weight class is 155? I don't even remember right now. Damn. Anyways, he's probably more of a natural 155er. So that definitely is, and Sean has talked about moving up in weights, going on to the future of his career. So this is definitely something that is interesting. Now the back and forth is Paddy was talking to, I think, damn, I don't even remember who he was talking to. It might have been Michael Bisping, but I want to say it was a different publication. But basically it might have been Ariel actually. He was telling him that, he doesn't really like Sean. He doesn't agree with his lifestyle choices and stuff like that, and thinks he's lazy and whatever. And Sean, when he was talking about on his podcast, is over here talking about like he didn't even realize that Paddy was talking shit about him. So now they're both kind of going back and forth a little bit, and I'd tune in for that fight. So let's do that. NFL. We got a lot of news on this, but I picked some stories that I kind of want to talk about, even though we just had the first week. These are just kind of the first things that come to my mind. It's not the top of my list, but it's what I want to talk about first. Josh Gordon. So, Josh Gordon. It has been reported from Adam Schefter that the NFLPA determined Josh Gordon has successfully completed his NFL monitored treatment program and has recommended to the NFL that he be reinstated per sources. Gordon is awaiting final approval from NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, but he is said to be ready to play and vaccinated. All right. Now, Josh Gordon played for Seattle for a little bit, and every time he got on the field, it seemed like he was off the field just as fast. Well, no, not just as fast, because it took forever for him to get on the field. And then when he was on the field, it took hardly any time for him to get off due to his substance abuse issues. Now, I have probably an opinion that's not popular with most NFL fans, especially casual fans, and maybe even hardcore fans. I think Josh Gordon is a product of his environment growing up. And every time I talk about Josh Gordon, or at least most times when it comes to substance abuse, I'm always going to refer back to Flemlo. Flemlo Raps on YouTube. Dude made the best, I think, 2 videos on Josh Gordon, his life, and what could possibly be contributing to why he has substance abuse issues. The guy's had a hard life, man. He grew up in a household with drugs, and his family did drugs. I'm sure he was around people who did drugs, sold drugs, did those things. So you can kind of understand why he has an issue with this. Now, I don't think it's really ever been explicitly stated what drugs he's having issues with, but I believe it's been rumored and even implied in some ways that it's just marijuana. Now, this is where I think it's kind of bullshit because, at this point with the NFL, marijuana is kind of a non-issue. I mean, yeah, you guys can't just get high before a game, even though some do. Damn, I can't even think right now because Seattle had a player. Damn, I can't even think of his name. Anyways, I think it's kind of BS that the NFL still holds him back for marijuana use, if that is the only drug that is keeping him from playing. Because at this point, they should grandfather him into the new policies, because the new policies make it seem like, marijuana use is not an issue. And I think, it sucks because clearly Josh Gordon is an amazing wide receiver. And it's unfortunate because he's lost so many years of his career due to this. And, I do hope that he can get back in the league. And I really hope he can at least have a couple solid years of just killing it for whatever team he plays for. I did see someone say that, or suggest that the Patriots sign him and then they just freaking destroy, which, if that happens, it happens. But then again, Josh Gordon was playing for the Patriots at one point, and he did also fail drug tests in that organization, so they may not even give him the opportunity. But if he does get reinstated, I can guarantee you there will be a team that will give him the opportunity. I mean, hell, Seattle may even give him that opportunity. Because I don't think they've found their third option, at least their designated solid third option. I know they got players like Freddie Swain and stuff like that who they're trying to work up to that. But he may still have some time to go before he gets to that point. But if Seattle signs Josh Gordon, I mean, hopefully they can get at least one good year. I think, if he came back this year, I mean, that could possibly be Seattle's third weapon. And shoot, I mean, with Russell Wilson playing the way he played in that first week, if that continues on throughout the season, might see some high efficiency, high octane scoring offense over here. So hopefully Josh Gordon has everything figured out. Hopefully the NFL lets him play again. And hopefully he can perform for a few years. So next we have unfortunate news for the San Francisco 49ers. And I'll begin by saying, even though I'm a Seattle fan, I look at how the 49ers last couple seasons have gone, and I kind of feel bad because they just cannot escape the injury bug, man. They've already had some players that have been injured, and they're out for the season. And then their starting running back, Raheem Mostert, is now going to be having a season-ending knee surgery. So I hope they like to pass. Or at least I hope they have a good backup option because, the way it went down was against Detroit. Raheem came out with a knee injury. Then he ended up, through, multiple consultations with different doctors from what I was reading, they determined that he's going to need surgery on his knee. And this is how the story broke. He actually posted on Twitter, this gives me, without a doubt, in my mind, the best possibility at coming back 110%. I've always come back stronger, and I will this time too. I have faith in myself, my doctors, my support system, my team, and God. It just sucks, man. Like, the 49ers just cannot escape it. I mean, last year they had so many injured players. I mean, and good players too. It's like, although I want Seattle to beat 49ers every damn time they play them, it's almost like that MGK Connor situation. I mean, even though Connor probably would still sweep or destroy MGK in that situation, you don't want to beat a team or beat a person who's, completely compromised. It sucks. It's like, yeah, we beat him, but not at 100% or not even close to 100%. So it just sucks that San Francisco can't get out from underneath this injury bug. So they ended up bringing in, who is it? I think Kerryon Johnson. Yeah. Who was drafted in 2018, and his best year was his first year. He finished that season with 641 yards. He only played 10 games. But the unfortunate thing, it looks like, is he's regressed every year. Oh, yeah, he was drafted to Detroit, by the way. And he's regressed every year. Last year, I was looking at statistics. He played all 16 games, but he had just over 100 yards. I think he got hurt, but I was having a hard time finding that. And last night at about 11 p.m., I was like, I'm done looking. So, man, I mean, they signed him to the practice squad, I believe it was. I'm sure they have him there because they need more running backs after this. I just don't think Kerryon Johnson's going to be that guy if they decide to start him. Yeah. All else in the news, all else in the league. New Orleans Saints have 8 members of their organization who've contracted the C. Now, I'm not going to say the word because I know YouTube is kind of a B word with that. But I think you all figure out what I'm talking about. They have a total of 6 offensive coaches and 1 player and a nutritionist who had contracted the virus, with the team being 100% poked. And that 1 player is Michael Thomas, who's not even playing right now, so that's kind of interesting. Luckily, it's not any starters, I guess, because when you think about it, unless Michael Thomas has been, working with the coaches and stuff, which actually clearly he must have been. And please excuse that sound. I accidentally just dropped this. So, Yeah, this kind of is interesting because with the team being 100% poked, there's really nothing they can do about it. I mean, the league has put out their policies on if a player who's not poked gets, contracts the virus and then spreads it to other players and ultimately gets the game canceled, that team is responsible for the loss. So I think it may still be the case that if the Saints have to pull out of that game, that Carolina gets the win. But I think the monetary penalties probably aren't in effect because it's like, what are you supposed to do at that point? And the league has gotten very loose with their guidelines when it comes to players interacting with each other, coaches interacting with each other, especially if you're vaccinated. And I mean, I kind of agree with the NFLPA when they came out expressing that they wanted the policies from last year to carry over to this year, at least the testing policies, which you would think is a no-brainer. I mean, you want your people to stay healthy. You want to make sure that no one's sick. So I'm surprised that they kind of loosened that penalty when it came to players that have been poked. So I think they should bring it back because this is a perfect example of you probably still need to do testing because you probably could have caught this a lot sooner rather than finding out that people got sick. And I mean, shoot, Carolina gets a win. I don't think, or if Carolina gets a default win, I don't think they're gonna be too upset about that. Yeah, maybe that's where I'm gonna end this. I think because that's all the news I wanted to talk about. Yeah, you're gonna catch me in the next time. I'm doing YouTube videos for the Seahawks. I'm doing YouTube videos for myself about the Seahawks. I might do a prediction video coming up, but with what I have going on, we'll see if I can squeeze that in. If not, I definitely will do a recap video on the game this coming weekend. I probably won't do league-wide predictions just because I don't have too much time, but I'll try my best. So, all right, catch me on Instagram Behind Enemy Line Sports, Twitter at Brandon2012, and YouTube Behind Enemy Line Sports. This will probably be up. Let's see, today's Wednesday. Maybe tomorrow evening or tomorrow night, or I may even schedule it for Friday morning. But either way, this shit's coming out. So, see y'all next time.